This video is an assignment from my Metropolia AMK-Väyläoppinot and a part of my Business College Helsinki studies. The assignment is a part of Väyläoppinot Tieto- ja viestintätekniikka insinööri AMK-tutkinto course. My name is Ralph Marko Rajasar and I will be teaching the basics of Python in this video. The sources that I used: python.org, coursera.org, viobo.com in the Python course which is a part of Metropolia studies. ChatGPT used as a code corrector and explanations of some of the topics that I did not fully understand. Let's get into this. What is Python? Python is an interpreted, object-oriented, high-level programming language with dynamic semantics. It's most commonly used for software and websites, also task automation, data analysis, and data visualization. It is a very useful programming language for professionals and even beginners that are starting out their coding journey. It's relatively easy to learn from other high-level programming languages, which makes it a good start for beginners and professionals alike. For people using Raspberry Pi, then they can use three different programming languages. And one of them is MicroPython, which is an implementation of the Python programming language. In simple words, it's a more compact version of Python used for microcontrollers and small embedded systems. Python is a so-called interpreted language. What does this mean? It means that Python's code is interpreted by line while it runs. JavaScript is another interpreted language. Errors might only appear when the programming language, the program, reaches that line of code which has the error. But compiled languages are different. They are compiled at once into a separate file. That file is called an executable. The file can also be run directly by the computer. How a compiled language differs from a interpreted language is that error checks for errors if it's the program checks for errors if it's clear that if it's clear and then runs the program. This is a mistake, I guess. I didn't realize it. Python versus other programming languages. Python is generally slower to run than other programming languages like Java, C# or C++, but easier to develop and much shorter than other programming programs, up to 10 times shorter in case of C++, not sharp. Syntax is also different between Python and other programming languages. Python is also a good glue language that combines other programming languages together. Variables store data that your program needs. For example, it can be a number, text, or a user input. It holds a value within itself. Here's an example of this. So I have written a code that prints, puts your age into code. So if I run this code, it will give me an input. So I'll write my age. I am 20 years old, so I'll write 20 and press enter. Now the code runs this thing and it gives me 20. So it prints this age and gives me 20. So in this example, the variable is age. This is the variable and it equals to this input that I give, which can only be given when I run the code. And then it prints the input. This would give you an input where you can write, I forgot what I even wrote, but even still. What are the rules and the best practices of naming variables in Python? Rules that you must follow. Names can only contain letters, numbers, and underscores. It must start with a letter or a underscore. It can't start with a number. So if I, for example, put 1 in front of it, 1 GE, this wouldn't work. So I ruined the code. Okay, it's okay. So I ruined the code, but even still. You can't start with a number. No special characters. These are some of the examples. You can't use a minus, you can't use quotes, you can't use anything. No special characters. Can't use Python keywords like else, if, while, and end. There are much more, but these are just some of the examples because there are a lot of them, as you will see in this tutorial. A good habit is to not use non-descriptive names like X, A, or just single letters in general. Don't use it unless you really know what it means. I would recommend not using it. Use underscores as a substitute for space. Don't make the names too long or short. So you can use underscores if you want, which is because you cannot use spaces in the code or in variables, so just use underscores as a substitute. What are the basic data types? Int are any whole numbers like 3 or -3. So negative numbers and positive numbers. Float are decimal numbers like 3.1415, which is pi, or -2.5. So anything with the decimal point, you have to use float, but if you have whole numbers, then use int, which I used in the example above. String is for text, like hi, or anything. You can think of anything, seriously. Pool is a true or false statements, like 1 equals true, because 1 equals true, or 1 + 1 equals true, whatever. Like, as long as a number equals true, it's true, or you can put anything, pretty much, if you want to make it true or false. And you'll see pool used in the future examples of this in this video. How do you use variables? Creating, assigning, and reading. Assignment manager is equal symbol, and it's used to create a variable and give it its value. You have already seen me use it in here, in the above example. Pi, so this is the text for using, so this example is using float as the variable type. And this time I didn't put a input, so I just put this, and this is a float, and this is the variable this time. It will show you it's pi equals, or double dots and float, which means this is a float. And if I run this, then it will print the first 5 digits of pi. Input and output. How do you get users' input in Python? I kinda already spoiled it, but spoiled it in the above example, but even still. You need to use input and parameters function to get the data of the user's input from the user. If you don't add another data type like int, then you won't be able to add numbers into the input parameters, because it always returns a string if not prompted to do otherwise. I'll show 2 examples of these in action. So it can be int or input or pool. It can be other ones too, I think, but I'm not certain of that. So pet's name. So this code will, this is there's 2 codes of this and 2 examples of this. So without the int before the input, this code would not work, because I didn't add the input before int. So I didn't add int before input, so it wouldn't work. But I did, so it does work. So pet's name, so I'll run it. So what is your pet's name? Well, we used to have a dog named Bambi. And then it will give me this input and well, write your age. Well, I am Tony, so I'll put Tony. So this, did I do it wrong? I guess I did. It should be, this is supposed to be minus. Wait, let me fix it. So this should work. Wait, let me try it again. Bambi and Tony. Okay, now it works. So the first name, the first input and output is form. This is the variable, so pet's name, which I inputted, which is Bambi here, and then I print it with this print command and parameters, and then pet's name, then the quote, and then double quotation marks, and then is such a cute name. So I inputted my previous dog's name, and then is such a cute name. It will print this. Then the number thing. So I put age, which was 20 years old. I am 20. So this will give me, this is the variable this time, age again. Write your age, and this prints my age. So your birth year is, and then some small math, which I somehow messed up, but I fixed. So it's the age, and then the age minus 2025 verse and minus 1. So it will give me these 2 years, because I'm not certain. This is a simple input. So there's three ways of combining variables into text with the print function. F strings, formatted strings. 2, using commas. 3, using plus to join strings together, but numbers have to be converted to string, so str and parameters. Here's some of the examples. So I used commas and quotes in the last example. So here, both of these, here. And so I will show only the F strings, and I will use the plus. Okay. So same, there's a new input which I made. So pet's name and this. So I used plus in this example. So I used plus its birth year, so pet's name, which is the variable of this, plus plus the string, which is its birth year is, and then some basic math, but because I'm using plus, I need to use str, which is string, in parameters, and then the same math I used here, which is again wrong, but I can just fix it by copying this and doing that. Now it's fixed. I should probably fix this too, but faulty code, or faulty what is it, math, but still. So let's go Bambi again, and let's say 12 years. I don't exactly remember it's my dog's, because he has passed away a long time ago. I don't remember the time he was born, but even still, let's say 12 years. And so this will give me this. There should be spaces in between these, so it would actually look better, but faulty code, like I said. Faulty coding. Then let's do again Bambi and 12 years, which is Bambi 12. this looks a bit better, but I used quotation marks. Okay, so here's the code. And because I'm not used to F strings, I messed this quite a bit up, but the key point is the same. It's understandable, it's readable, you can understand it. How do you use quotation marks without string ending? There are two ways of doing this. One of the ways is using different quotes, for example, double quotes inside of single quotes, like in this example. So I used, this could be used in a string. So I used double quotes inside of single quotes, or vice versa. Or using escape characters with a backslash. So you can use quotes, single or double. So here's the examples. So quote 1 and quote 2 both work. The dog barked, the dog barked. And so I used backslashes for this one. And I was able to still use quotation marks for both, because I used in the second quote single quote marks at the end, and then the double quotes inside the string. And then with this I used backslash. String handling. How to find the length of a string. It's as simple as using the function called length, which is len, and parameters. It gives you the number of characters in a string. It also includes string. The string includes spaces and punctuation, which is included in the length of the string. So here, even this space in between Cocker Spaniel, which is the dog breed Bambi was, and so I'll run it, and it shows 14 characters. So this whole string is 14 characters. If I took away the space, then it would be 13. But yeah. How do you get a single character or a part of a string? Slicing. There are two ways. One, a single character using string index. Two, a substring using slicing and string start to end. This excludes anything after the end. So this part. Here's an example using the country of Spain. So 0 would mean the first letter, because Python starts counting from 0, not from 1. So this would mean S. This would print S. Then this would mean it starts at P and ends at N, because it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Because if there's no other letters, then it ends at N. And it wouldn't even it wouldn't include the, like, if there was, for example, like Spain's or I don't know, whatever. If there was another letter, it wouldn't include it anyway. And then minus 1 would mean the last letter. So here. So S, pain, and N. So the middle print would give pain, the first would give S, and the last -1 would give N. I think it's decently simple enough to understand. How can you repeat strings? Well, by using asterisks. It's quite simple. You add a variable or a string, then you add a asterisk and the number of times you want the word to repeat. Funny, ha, which so this variable will print ha, and if I wanna print it multiple times, then I include how many times I want to include it. So this would repeat it 5 times. So ha 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 ha. Simple. This can be also just if you want to use ha inside the print command, then you can also use it. It doesn't have to be a variable, but I like using a variable because it's more useful, at least I think. So what else does what is the method and what does it do? So dot lower and parameters converts to lowercase. Dot upper converts to uppercase. Dot stripped removes white space from start and end. Dot replace A to B replaces the part of the string. Dot find finds an index of a substring. Dot split splits the string into a list. I'll only show a few examples because it's there's a lot of built-in functions in Python that are rarely used or not really commonly used, and then I would be just listing these different built-in functions for hours. I'm not gonna do it, so I'll show only 3 examples. Spanish, so a language this time. Spanish, which is the language variable in this example. And so I have dot, so print language, so the variable. I could just include Spanish inside here, but like I said, I like to use variables instead of just words. So dot upper will make this whole phrase into uppercase. Dot find will find me how many times there are this word, so pan inside this variable or this word, and then this dot replace uses the first you sign which letters you want to remove and which ones you want to replace them with. So I wanna replace niche with Neil. So here's the examples. So Spanish uppercase, which is this, dot upper. then it found pan inside here, and then with the replace command I made it print spaniel, because I like spaniels, cocker spaniels. Excuse me. Conditional statements. If lause in Finnish. What does if and elif and else statements do? If checks if if statement checks if a certain assigned condition is true. If else does the same as if the if statement. If the condition is true, so if statement condition is true, then it runs normally. But if it's not normal, so if the if statement becomes false, then whatever is written in the else statement then will print. Then what about the if, elif and else statements? Is similar to the previous, but this time it checks multiple conditions in a row. So it starts with if, it goes to elif, and then goes to else. This can mean you can add like multiple elif statements inside here. I could add multiple elif statements, but for simplicity's sake, I'm not going to do that. My examples are already written, and I'm not gonna write anymore. So this code checks your age. So I print, are you an adult? And then you write your age. And then it checks with the if statement some math, like few math statements, and it calculates if you're over 21 years old, then print this command. If you are 20, 19 or 18 years old, then it will print you are an adult, but you can't drink heavy liquor yet. Else statement, and at the end, else statement, if it's below 21 and if it doesn't meet the requirements of 18 to 20, then you are a minor. So it will print that you're not an adult, you're a minor. So I can show you. So let's say if I was 21, then this would print you are an adult and can drink heavy liquor in Finland. Then after, well, my actual age is 20, so let's write 20. You are an adult, but you cannot drink heavy liquor yet in Finland. Or at least buy heavy liquor in Finland. And let's say I was, 17, then it would print you are a minor, because I'm under 18. So this gives you different result depending on your age that you write. Next example. Usually there are 4 space indentations to show which lines belong to a certain statement below it. There's two ways of doing that. You can press tab on your keyboard and it will automatically do it, or you can press 4 times space. I'd recommend using tab. And also there is a certain error that can come from using tabs and spaces. So choose one and only use one. I recommend using tab. So if num, which is the variable, is under 5, then this number is greater. Then, well, I'll show you. This number is greater than 5. This line is also part of the if block. This line is outside the if block. So if I change, for example, the variable number to 4, what will happen? Well, it won't print these commands because it's outside of the if statement. Simple. It goes back when it's over 5. These are the different kinds of comparisons that can be used for if conditions. Here are the main operators. Operator meaning example. Operator meaning example. So double equals means equals. X equals. I wrote it so weirdly. God damn. So I can make it easier. So the code was a bit hard to read. So double equals, which is just equals. If you have this, then not equals. This means less than or equal, greater than or equal. Why is this? I'm not very used to using Jupyter extension, so I'm a little bit confused why it is showing like this, but okay. You can also use logical operators, and, or not. These are different logical operators. Boolean values like true and false, which I talked about before. It's the same as pool. So Boolean and pool mean the same. It's just true and false statements. Values. String and variable comparisons. So in this example, I'm showing some of the comparisons that I can use. So here's equals if it's under this or over this. It will print liquid. If it's over 99, it's boiling. Yeah. So, and if it's below 0, then it's solid. So simple code, for example. So 100 boiling, 50, it's a liquid form, and if I put 0, it's solid. And in this example, I used AND, like in the logical operators section. What does it mean that the condition must be true or false? If condition must evaluate to a true or false Boolean statement, here is an example. If 1 equals... If it equals 1, then print this one would run. If statement is 0, then it means false. So it's a interesting thing with if conditions. It must always evaluate a true or false Boolean statement. So 0 in this case, if equals 0, the statement would mean false, and this part of the code would not run because it's because the 0 would mean false in this if statement. That's just how it works. If in double quotes or single quotes and the string is empty, it's also false. So this print command and this print command would not run. If high, because this is not a empty string, this will run. So you can see how it works. Okay. How can conditions be combined? There are logical operators that can combine multiple conditions. Well, one is AND. With this operator, other conditions must be true. Other conditions must be true. True. Or with this operator, one of the statements must be true. 3. Not operator reverses the condition to a false Boolean. So if you put not, then it would mean not false. So if it's not 1, let's say, then it would mean false. So this is a cool sort of code where I used not and AND. So if these statements are true, then it will write you may enter, because AND in this case is both of these variables are true. So the if statement here would run. But let's say I wrote false here, then access denied instantly. You just can't. Because you are already logged in, but you do not have the ticket. And if you have neither one, then it will tell you to please log in and access denied also. So, on the loops. What is a loop? It's a repeat of a block of code multiple times. Instead of writing the same code over and over again, you can just use loops, and you would want to write, let's say if you wanted to write 20 lines of the same code over and over again, then loops are the perfect option, because copy and pasting is still slower than using loops. If you really need to write like, I don't know, 20 times the same, or let's say 100 times the same block of code, then it's much easier to just copy or just use loops. So this code works like this. So for e in range of 3, so this will write 3 times this print command. So you don't need to write 3 separate lines of code thanks to looping. This is how it works. It's pretty simple, really. How does a while loop work? So the while statement in a loop work. And what is an infinite loop? A while loop runs until the condition becomes false. So it will run as long as the condition is true. And will stop when it's false. Like here, I explained. This also means a infinite loop is plausible, because the loop never becomes false and will run forever. So count equals 1, while count equals 3, count plus 1. And well, with this is an infinite loop, because there's nothing stopping this statement from being true forever. So like I said here, so it will run as long as the condition is true. And because you add true, it is going to be true forever until you break it. So I'll show you. So if I didn't stop it, this would have gone forever. And yeah, because it's an infinite loop. You can see it will even give an error statement. So just make sure that there is a way of the while loop to stop, that there is something stopping the loop. How does a for statement loop work, and how can you use range in a for loop? For loops are a block of code fixed number of times. After using range, it's similar to a loop, but it has a counter built into it. So the number here is the counter of how many times. So how many times it will loop. This is how it works. The range start, then you add stop and step. I'll show the 3 examples here, how they work. If you input only a single number into a range, then it just counts to that number and stops. So let's run this. Because, like I explained before, Python always starts with it starts counting from 0, not from 1. So this counts 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, simple. Then this would mean it starts from 1. So the number starts counting from 1 and stops at 6. So it doesn't exclude 6. like I explained it in the last assignments or basics. Then with this, it starts from 10, stops at 0, and the steps are minus steps, so it counts from 10 to 0, and it skips one number, so I'm sure. So it goes from 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, because it's 2, so minus 2 from every step. How can you use else in loops, and why? And what does break and continue and pass do? In Python, else can be used after loops if there isn't a break before it. Here are what the 3 keywords do. Break ends the loop. Continue skips the loop step that is currently active and continues to the next one. Pass does nothing. Absolutely nothing. It just passes through. And it's only meant for a placeholder for future code. So in this example, in the future I could add some other code here. That's the only reason you would use pass. So in this example, let's give it a number. Let's give it 1. It counts to 1. If I write 2, it counts to 2. But if it's, for example, 3, then break didn't stop this. Break is supposed to stop this. Break should be... yeah. But even still. So if there is break in between the print command, so if break was here, it would stop the code from running. Then another one example. So let's write 4. The break has not stopped this code from running. Let's go 2. So this else statement always runs, no matter what. But because in this example, the break stops if the if statement doesn't run. Then for E in range 1 to 5. So, and because I have continue here, it's gonna pass through print command. It's not gonna print this. It does nothing. This code does nothing because it cannot print anything. But this one does. It's just the same code as above here. The exact same code, but pass does nothing because it's a placeholder and it just passes through. File handling. How do you read and write to a file, to a text file? Python has a built-in function that opens files, and it's open, and it's called open parameters. This is a very important function, but this is how you use the different types of reading and writing functions for your own use. Let's start with reading files first. You need to open the file. by pasting the name of the file you want to open and followed by a comma. And the R function means read mode. So here's the example. So open parameters, double quotes, the file name of the which you want to add, and then what is this? And then you follow up. So a comma, and then in quotes again you write the mode you want to activate. So we are using read, so here's the example. And there are three options. You can read the whole file with .read parameters. You can read a certain line with .read line, or you can get a list of all the lines with read lines with S. So read line and read lines. Simple. So I already have a file which is PVT. It's supposed to be an acronym for Python video tutorial. So what have I wrote into it? So with open pvt.text comma r as a file, content file read, and print content. So the file contains woof because I'm bored. So then if I wanna line strip, what was this? And also there's a important thing you need to remember. You have to always close the file after reading it. So you have two ways of adding .close or using open parameters to do it automatically. And I absolutely recommend using .open or with open because you just don't have to write .close every time. So with open is the best, absolutely the best. And so with open, like I showed here, this example as file, and this will automatically do the closing process after reading it. Dot strip. I don't remember what I was trying to do with this example, but whatever. How do you write to a text file? You have two options. So W, which is write, and this will overwrite files to. So if you have something inside, for example, my PVT text, then it would just overwrite it. So after I run this code, this text will overwrite it, and I can show you after doing it. If that file has something else inside it, so there are also a which is a append, and this will add text to the end. So I can show you it by running both of these. So it wrote to this file, and it also wrote this thing to the end. And now when I run this, it shows this. and woof doesn't show anymore. Yeah, so the pvt.text file only has this now because it overwrote it with this write, and with a file it added to the end, which is this. How do you read and write binary, bittimuotoinen data in Finnish? Reading and writing binary is similar to writing and reading, but you just add, for example, if you wanna read, then you just write RB, so always use a B at the end, or WR, which, or WB, this is supposed to be B. That's weird. Okay. So for writing binary, but because I didn't have a test file ready for it, I cannot show it. But if I did run this, then yeah, so error because there's no that. But this would show how many bytes were read, and this would write to the text same way as this. So I could add, because I don't really understand binary data at all, so I generally don't know how to write or anything to do with like binary, so I'm not gonna even show an example of it. Functions. What are functions? And what's the difference between subfunction and main function? The main function is the main part of the code that runs when the script starts, and all the subfunctions are called from the main function or elsewhere. Subfunctions are used to divide our code into reusable blocks, similar to loops, similar to those, but this just most of these basics that I'm gonna show do similarly, like similar things. It just helps you reuse code. It helps you just from not having to write the same text multiple times. So the code into reusable blocks. This helps save time by reusing the code instead of repeating it over and over again. It helps code be easier to read. Debugging and testing also becomes easier with the use of subfunctions. This can save time for programmers like myself. How do you use it? Defining a function and calling it into use. You need to define the function using define, which is def, D-E-F. Then the function's name. Use preferably a name that makes sense. The same as with the variables, you can add a, but please don't. Just please don't. Just use something that is understandable. So here's an example. Define my underscore dog with parameters. You'll see how these are used later. Here. Print we had a Cocker Spaniel. So this is inside this text is inside the function. So after I run this, it prints this function here. Simple. How do you give data to a function? Parameters. What are default values? Function can take inputs and store its data within its parameters. They can also return results with results using the return keyword. So here, return. Also, something useful to know is global and local variables. When using variables inside of the function, which is called a local variable, because inside of the function, this variable is different from this variable outside. So the main body of the code, which is main function. Okay. And anything inside the main function is called global. So this is a global variable, and this is a local because it's inside the dog breed function. So return input, what is your dog breed? So when I run this, then I will, when I run this, so this is supposed to give, you are supposed to input what is your dog breed, and this is what the function does. This is the whole function purpose. And then this function, the cool dog and dog parameter inside here prints your dog, your quotes, dog is cool. So, and this is only used for the example of local and global variables. So this would not print a equals 2 because this is inside the dog breed function. This is outside of it. So the global system. So this will write the global function. Like I told here. And then this dog parameter can be changed at any time. So this can change at any time. And if I, for example, use this function with inside the cool dog function, so here, then I will get the input from dog breed, dot_breed function, and I will get the text phrase from this, the cool dog. Okay, so I'll run the code. Cocker Spaniel. Your Cocker Spaniel is cool. Simple. Because it substitutes this parameter, so this dog inside and outside, so inside the parameters and inside the function itself, with dog breed when I want to use it, when I want to call it in. What is a module and how do you use them? A module is a Python file, so .py, which is the file extension name, that contains all the same sort of functions, variables, or classes that you have in your Python file, which it is. It's used to help organize code and avoid repeating it yourself over and over again. You are just helping yourselves and saving time. There are also built-in modules like math, random, and datetime. Or you can just make your own module for your own specific need. I think it will be easier if I show an example of this in use. So import math is, the keyword is math, and you import it. So you use import, and then you can use the module. Print math and square root. So this is, it shows here, but return the square root of x. So I added 64, which is the square root of 8. You'll see it soon. You can also import just parts of a module with from random. So from the module import randint, which is return random integer in range A to B, including both endpoints. So print randint and parameters. So this would give me a random number between 5 to 20. So yeah. Import datetime as a TT. This renames and imports the module's name. So print datetime and datetime. So datetime is actually the class which is inside of the module. So we did actually change the module, like you can see, module TT, which is datetime. So actually, if we didn't change the name, it would be datetime.datetime. I know it's kind of confusing, but yeah. So what is the datetime of now? So let's execute. The current time is this. It's 1. So it's 19th of April 2025, and time is this. And so this random number was 18, and square root was 8. So creating your own module is just very simple. Making or using a different Python file. So you just make another Python file. That's it. You save it, and that's it. You have it in the same folder as your other Python file, and you can import it at any time. So if I actually did have another Python file, then I could show it. So it's just this simple. So you just write import and then the Python file. So like I showed here, name of the file .py. Very, very, very simple. But I'm myself using Jupyter extension, so it would be IBYNB. But even still, just not to confuse anyone. So just the importing of a module is just so easy that I kind of skipped the aspect because there's not really that hard. It's really not very complex. You just press import from, so same thing. You can import the file name or from import that, so from module import whatever or import the module. Very, very, very simple. Error handling. How do you use try except and what are else and finally in the try except statement? Try except is used for catching errors that could otherwise crash the program. So for example, at the beginning of the tutorial, I showed this. If, for example, I wrote a string, so something like letters inside of this, then it would give me back a error message. And we want to avoid that. So try number int give a number. So I could use this same code inside of the first example, but it was just too complex at the beginning to explain. So I'm showing it now. And so if expected, if there is a value error, which means there's not a number inside this, then you didn't give a number. You will print this, like I explained here. We already talked about try except, so here's how else and finally work with inside it. Else will run if there was no error in the try block, so nothing here. So it's like everything went okay, do this next time. Finally will always run no matter if there was an error or not. So it's good for cleanup code or stuff that must happen. It's closing a file, like closing a file. So if you don't want to, with the reading and writing stuff, if you don't want to use with open command, then you can use it inside here. But even still, I think it's just not. Yeah, so just like closing a file. Try number int, give a number, except if there's a value error, it will print this. You didn't give a number, else print you gave a number, good job. And finally, this will always print no matter what. Simple. So let's give 1. And let's give 1. So that's how it works. How to handle multiple different kinds of errors. If you want to react to different types of errors differently, then you can just add more except blocks. Try number 1, int input give a number. Number 2, int input another number. result, number 1, number 2, so divided. Except value, print, you need to write real numbers. Except 0 divisions error, print you can't divide by 0. Else, print your result is result, so which is here. So this variable, which consists of this math like math thing problem, and then finally done trying. Okay, so let's give, for example, 1 and 2, 0.1, or let's say 2. Boom. Done trying. Can we prevent errors without try except? Yes, we can. If you want to avoid errors like index errors, which happens if you try to access something that doesn't exist in a list, you can use an if statement. My list 10, 20, and 30, index int input which index you want. If index equals 0 and index length my list, print my list index. Else, print index doesn't exist. So I write, for example, 0. It will give 1. If I give 1, it will give me 2. If I give 2, it will give me 3. And if I give it 4, this index does not exist. Data types and slicing. What do these 3 main data types do? List, dictionary, and tuple. There's lots of data types in Python, but let's go through the 3 most important ones. List. It's a collection of items in order you can change, edit them, written with square brackets. So these ones. Example below. My list equals brackets dog, cat, and bird. Print my list 0, which of course means, like I said, because Python counts from 0 upwards or downwards. So 0 means dog in this example. And then my list dot append. This changes, adds horse to the end. So, and if I change this to 3, I think it will give me horse. Or is it 2? Let's see. Bird. So if I'm not sure exactly, but I think if I add my list and print my list and then 3 after this command, then it should give me horse, but I'm not gonna bother with it right now. Dictionary. It's like a mini database, so you can have keys, values written with curly brackets. Example below. Dog name, so equals Bambi, and age equals 5. Just let's put 12. I don't know. 12, 5 doesn't really matter. Just random number anyway. Print parentheses dog and in square brackets like in list name and then dog breed Cocker Spaniel. Bambi. So if I let's say I use this, so copy, I do this, then it will give me Cocker Spaniel too. So like that. Then double, like a list, but you can't change it. You can't change it. So written with parentheses. My double, apple, banana, cherry. Print my double, and in square brackets 1. This gives me banana because 0 is apple, 1 is banana, and 2 is cherry. And so I wrote this inside of it. So this gives me banana. If you don't, and the main use for double is if you don't need to edit the values, then double is the better and faster choice over list. Objects. What is an object and what is inheritance? Why do you need them? An object is a custom tool you make yourself. It combines data and functions that work together. It helps to organize code and makes big programs easier to manage. For example, if you have a dog object, it could have a name, age, and also a bark function. What is inheritance? Well, you just make a new class based on a old one, so a old object. So let's say I have this object here. I can make a new one with inheritance and make it better. And you can add things and change things, of course. What is the difference between class and object? Well, a class is more like a blueprint of the final product, which is an object. Well, the object is the final product. So it's the real thing you build using the class or classes. So you start by defining a class and then you create objects from it. Class, dog, define init, so self dog, name, blah blah blah. And then you just add values, pretty much. Self name, name, self age, age, define bark, self print wolf, wolf. What's the issue here? What's the issue exactly here? Well, I guess another code that I messed up. How do class variables and functions work? Variables and functions inside a class are called members. You can access them using self. And from outside the class, you use object name, like my dog's name, dogs.name. How do you protect variables from being changed? You can make variables private by using underscores like underscore age. Or is it double underscore? Yeah, double underscore. So you use double underscores and then age. This tells other programmers, don't mess with this directly. Instead, you can give them special functions to change the values safely. So self value, height. Let's see if this works. Ah, this works. So this code just helps that the logic can be changed. It's just nobody can write like minus 20 and break the logic of it. And the last thing that I will show. So how does inheritance work in code? You can make one class, use another older class as a base. So that's what inheritance is. And class animal, define speak, self, print some sound. Class dog, animal, define speak, self, print bark. Bambi dog, Bambi speak, bark. That's it. And I hope this helped. And I've been filming this whole video for around 1.5 hours, and I'm finally done. It's been a long video. Thank you for watching.